So what's up, guys? This is Ben with Tactical Nutrition, where we are cutting through the matrix, the insanity of the health and fitness industry to figure out how to be the best version of ourselves. So real quick, a personal note, I was looking at the camera, I was like, why does my neck look all red? And I realized I had done hang cleans this morning at the gym, so that's from the bar. If you're wondering why I don't have a rash or something like that. I got a very important video to do today. Sometimes I have trouble coming up with topics. I like to do more of like a thought stream with these videos. But I have like a topic I want to talk about in general and then wherever we go from there. But real quick plug. If you are interested in checking out any custom training programs, tacticalnutrition.net. I'm going to be updating that site. It's a landing page at the top at the moment. Basically, just a landing page. You can set up a 15-minute video chat or call with me to discuss your goals and your training history and all that stuff. And you can get a custom program a month, 3 months, a year, and it's through the Trainerize app. And so I don't know if you're not like someone that's into fitness, you probably don't know what that app is, but I was waiting for years for a good training app. And they just weren't cutting the mustard. But this is a great app. It's got a live chat. You can chat with me every single day with questions. There's videos on all the exercise custom programs, nutrition plans. It's great. It's a lot of value. But anyway, so that's the plug. I want to talk about what's called leaky gut. So this is really important. So this is becoming more common. I mean, the thing, leaky gut itself, has been going on for a long time, as I'll discuss here. But it was kind of not recognized by the mainstream health industry. You got to understand, too, that mainstream medicine, again, and this is just the nature of the beast, because of the size, the Leviathan, gargantuan size of the health industry, like most things, it's like the practical stuff is like 20 years behind. The cutting edge research generally is not happening for the mainstream. Just like when you go to school, the information you're generally learning, for the most part, your textbooks, is like 10 years behind. Anyway, so if you ask your doctor about leaky gut, they may kind of give you a weird look. There's some people might understand what it is. But this is really important because it really explains a lot of autoimmune conditions. I was always interested in autoimmune conditions, and I'm not giving medical advice. I always have to put this stupid disclaimer. I don't give medical advice anyway, like you should go take this drug or that drug. But, talking about autoimmune conditions, things like that, you can kind of get flagged online because I didn't go to Harvard, so I can't talk about that. If you don't go to those schools, you're magically too stupid to know about this stuff, apparently. Can't read books or anything. Anyway, so autoimmune conditions are on the rise. They're like the new chronic illness that's like becoming more and more common. What is autoimmune conditions? Where your body is, immune system is attacking itself for some reason. Now, they're starting to classify a lot of diseases and illnesses that didn't used to be autoimmune as autoimmune. Because anything that's inflammatory is essentially a autoimmune condition, if you think about it. I'm not talking about inflammation like if I punch you in the arm and your arm bruises and it gets inflamed. That's not what I mean. What I'm talking about is like inflamed joints, inflammation on the skin, inflammation on the inside, because inflammation is a normal process of your immune system. It's basically like the first step towards healing something, which, becomes ironic as you talk about this stuff, because it sounds like, well, if it's inflamed, then it should be healing. But your immune system begins to go in and like overreact. So this inflammation, which should be short term, like for instance, what I mean by this inflammation, let's just say you cut yourself in your arm, right? whatever. Doesn't matter. And, you got a little cut there. And then as it starts to heal, it becomes red and a little bit inflamed. And obviously, like, that's normal. That's what tells your body to send the immune system to regenerate the tissue, essentially. So a little bit of inflammation is not a bad thing, a good thing. But chronic inflammation, one thing that comes to mind is gout. And I had an old client at one of the first gyms I trained at who had gout. He was really overweight. He hadn't been eating well. He'd admit it. And he had gout. And so I started reading up on it. And this was like 15 years ago. So this is when I started getting into that kind of, to help out my client. I was like, I didn't really know what gout was, and a crystallization in the joints. And so you'd get these joint problems. And you come to find out it was because he was, they said it's because it was too much protein. And that just didn't jive with me. I'm like, what? Like, why would eating too much protein cause your joints to crystallize? And what I ended up finding out is that what happened was because of this thing called leaky gut, which is correlated with all of these diseases, is proteins, undigested proteins, were going through the gut wall, because there's a point in your gut wall, believe it or not, where it's only about 1 cell thick. And there's these little thing called tight junctions. You can find all of this online. Again, I'm just giving you info that you can look up yourself. Tight junctions, you can find pictures of it. What happens is you get these little tight junctions. That's where like the villi that are absorbing nutrition, that's where it like goes, it's only 1 cell thick, so that that's where your body actually absorbs nutrients into the bloodstream. Like, it doesn't just magically happen. There's got to be at some point that the nutrient goes through the blood, goes through the gut wall and gets into the bloodstream, goes to the rest of your body, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't absorb anything. But what happens is, with leaky gut, and it could be caused from all types of, like, basically toxins, a toxic environment, stress, gut bacteria imbalances, all that fun stuff. You get little holes, basically little holes in the gut wall. So instead of like properly absorbing nutrition, larger particles that aren't supposed to get through get into the bloodstream. And you'll see how this all makes perfect sense with the immune response. So gout, right? Find out that there was large, like, undigested proteins getting through the gut wall because of this leaky gut syndrome caused by the poor diet and lifestyle. And then from there, they're migrating to the joint, and then that's where the immune response would come in, and there'd be the crystallization. I don't know exactly how that crystallization works, but again, we don't need to know everything here. But then that's what would cause the inflammation of the joint. So that's when I figured, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like with gout, right? I mean, why would, I was just like, just saying you're eating too much protein, that doesn't make sense, because there's so many of us that could just eat protein all day long and not get gout. Anyway, so that's just one of those examples of an undigested protein getting through the gut wall and then into the bloodstream. Undigested food. Now think of all the things that could happen here. You could get heavy metals. I've heard that things like fluoride, and we won't get into the conspiracy theories here. I don't really give a shit. Personally, I'll talk about it. If you don't like it, then whatever. But can actually migrate up into the thyroid, which is where iodine is supposed to go. And if you look at the periodic table of the elements, you will see that they're in the same column, where all this is where the sciencey stuff that's where it starts to make sense. You're like, oh, okay, this is all starting to make sense. Chlorine, fluoride, iodide, they seem to want to go to the same spot in the body, and they battle for receptor sites and all this stuff. But so all these autoimmune conditions are basically like, what happens is shit is not supposed to get into your bloodstream. there's like stages of your immune system, right? Now there is most of your immune system actually is on the outside, right where these one cell thick areas of like the small intestine are. And when I say most of the immune system, because like that's where the problems are going to start. And now what happens is it gets bad enough to where things get past it. And then you go into like a level 2 immune response, as I would call it. Like once stuff in the bloodstream, your body's like, okay, that's not good. It's not supposed to be in there. It's traveling around. There's all types of problems it's causing. You've got free radicals and you can get parasites, think of bacteria. You can get blood infections because of this. I mean, that's why you have skin, if you think about it in the first place. I mean, for multiple reasons, but one reason is like skin protects protects things from getting into your blood. That's why if you like do cut yourself, you need to like, you need to sterilize it and, bandage it and take care of it. Because if you just leave it, shit's going to get in your blood. It's going to get infected, all types of problems. But anyway, so there's like multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and I'm not here to talk about like fixes for each individual. I'm talking about how to fix the leaky gut. Because what happens, I know, is like one thing about our medical system that really bugs me is how once somebody gets this diagnosis, it's like they gotcha. I've had people that are like, well, I have MS. And then they're like, well, I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. And I just don't buy that. Now, you might have flare-ups for the rest of your life. But I believe, I've heard of people fixing these problems and basically like to the point where they have no symptoms, which is essentially a cure, right? But doctors don't like to talk about that because that doesn't fit in their paradigm for the most part. But so leaky gut, it's like all these autoimmune conditions and inflammation even, things can travel all over your body, obviously. Once it gets into your blood, they can it can get into your brain. It can cause, obviously, like if like things like E. coli can get into your blood. And your E. coli is in your colon. And that's where it's supposed to be. And all these things there's a lot of bacteria in there that's supposed to be in your digestive tract. But people go, E. coli, oh my God, it's terrible. It's like, it's already in your body. The problem is you don't want it to get into your bloodstream. You don't want it to get out of where it's supposed to be. And if you think about all of these different problems with the gut, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, blah, 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 and they all are a little bit different, obviously, and I'm here to talk about the common denominator, which a lot of times is the leaky gut. So how do you fix it? Well, you've got to, obviously this is one reason to eat healthy. Don't eat stuff and nobody's perfect, but don't eat stuff like McDonald's, which if you notice, flies won't eat McDonald's. If you think I'm kidding, leave a McDonald's burger out of the elements. If you throw it out in your yard and it gets rained on, obviously it'll break down. But if you just leave it on your porch, it'll just sit there and sit there. It'll sit there for a year. It'll collect dust. And when flies and bacteria, this is really annoying me right here. When flies and bacteria won't eat something, you shouldn't either. And so stuff like that goes into your body, and the bacteria can't break it down. This fake food is going through your digestive tract. It's not being absorbed. It's clogging up the works. It's it's not giving bacteria in their gut what they need. Obviously, toxins, they're everywhere. But the biggest part is what you're eating and what you're drinking. So things that can help your digestive tract. So aloe. Aloe is great. Think about anything that's good for your skin, basically, is going to be good for your digestive tract. Because your skin is your outside It's like an inside-out digestive tract. They're very connected, which is why a lot of skin conditions, by the way, I had eczema, crazy going up, psoriasis, all this stuff. A lot of this is caused by the leaky gut or just a messed up digestive tract in general. So you got to fix the problem. So what you can do is certain nutrients, again, like aloe, you can drink herbal aloe. We have a product. I drink it just straight out of the bottle. You can drink as much of it as you want. There's like no toxicity. Aloe is going to be good for your digestive tract. It's just soothing. Different mushrooms. Shiitake mushroom is good for your digestive tract. Olive oil, healthy fats, omega-3s. All the usual stuff that's good for you is going to be good for your digestive tract. And what you'll notice is, like me, for instance, if I've had times where I've fallen off my diet pretty bad for like a few days. And I'll notice that my skin, I'll get the little patch of eczema, and then like I can tell my skin just feels like dry. It doesn't feel good. And like the longer I go with like a crappy diet, the worse that ends up getting. So things that are good for your skin, different types of mushrooms, and then like, again, healthy fats are so good for your digestive tract, and also probiotics. So that's a big one. Probiotics are a big thing, and people say they're in yogurt. I don't think yogurt's the best way to get them because they're homogenized. So they must fortify the yogurt with the bacteria, because that's what probiotics are, basically. Food for bacteria. And because it's homogenized and pasteurized, it shouldn't have any bacteria in there at all. But fermented foods, and some of this stuff sounds weird, guys, but like I'll get like pickled asparagus, pickled vegetables. I don't eat a ton of them, but like sprinkle those into your diet. And like kimchi, kombucha, these are all examples of probiotics. And you don't have to go nuts on these things. You just, the toxins and the toxic diet, it's unavoidable. No matter how perfectly you eat, nobody wants to be like a monk eating perfectly all the time. Obviously, you want a slice of pizza, some ice cream here and there, but it's unavoidable. So you need to eat these things that are going to help your digestive tract. Now, think of the things that I'm listing off here. How many people are getting those proper omega-3, DHA, EPA fatty acids? Most people are not. That's one of those deficiencies. Most people aren't consuming aloe because, well, most people just don't, it's kind of like hard to find. I don't know. People aren't just like, oh, I got to go get some aloe, and you're not just going to eat the aloe plant, although you could. Shiitake mushroom, different types of mushrooms. A lot of people like I don't like mushrooms. You can see how like these are basically just foods that people don't eat in general, and they're eating a lot of crap. And this is why these issues are happening. We overcomplicate the heck out of it. And modern medicine is like, they're generally not going to tell you what to eat. And I'm not saying it's like everything, but it's the main thing is definitely what you're eating and putting into your body. Like that's what's feeding the gut. That's what's feeding all those trillions of bacteria in there in your gut. Is what you're eating. You can't get around that. So if you are eating processed, crappy foods all the time, like most people are, like, oh, I went to Wendy's earlier, and what'd you have for breakfast? Well, I had some Fruit Loops with the fake sugars and the fake food colorings and all this stuff that your body rejects. You're going to run into problems. And especially when you do that for decade after decade after decade, then you end up with the chronic diseases. By the way, and I'll end the video on this, they're calling obesity at this point a autoimmune condition in a way because it's inflammatory. So we have an epidemic of these autoimmune conditions. And a lot of people that I've noticed that have them, which is more and more and more people with the skin issues, with the MS, with the fibromyalgia, and then I work with them on nutrition, and I get the food journals, and it's very clear as day. Like, look, we got to clean this diet up. Like, it's really bad. Most people's diet is really, really, really bad. Way worse than they think. They might think it's okay. Again, it's like, Chex Mix for breakfast, drank some tap water, had a soda for lunch, Diet Coke, and then, we ordered some Papa John's pizza for dinner. It wasn't that bad. Horrendous. I mean, like, if you're going to eat crappy, at least get the good stuff in there too. Like Jim Rohn would say, you can have the candy and the apple, but you can't just have the candy. Like, he really had a simple way of putting things. I really like that. You can have the candy and the apple, but you can't just have the candy. You have to have the apple too. So when you do eat healthy and put these things that I'm talking about, and many others that you can find into your body, you're able to get away with other foods more, because your digestive tract is stronger. It's ready. Your immune system is stronger. It's not so depressed and like overloaded. So guys, that's the video. I'll talk more about leaky gut in the future, but if you got any comments or anything, leave a comment if you have anything to add about the leaky gut, or if you hate what I'm saying. I've had trolls already, but go nuts. Otherwise, Tactical Nutrition out. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good weekend.